Merry Christmas, campers! I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to Book Club. Today we were going to read The Night I Met Father Christmas. It's by Ben Miller, okay? And it says he's a actor, comedian, and author. So hopefully this is a great book about the time when he met Father Christmas. Right, let's get started. So if you've got the book at home, feel free to read along. If you haven't, no worries at all. And we're going to read from chapter 1 now. So, exciting. Just get to the right page. Chapter 1. When I was small, one of my friends said something really silly. He said that Father Christmas didn't exist. So where do all the Christmas presents come from, I asked him. He didn't have an answer. I don't know, he said. It's just something my older sister told me. Who comes down the chimney and eats the mince pies and drinks the brandy, I asked. Who rides the sleigh? My friend was silent for a while. You know what, he said. You're right. I don't know why I brought it up. Do you want to play marbles? That night, I had trouble getting to sleep. I had won the argument, but my friend had planted a tiny seed of doubt in my mind. What if Father Christmas wasn't real? As Christmas approached, I began to ask myself all sorts of worrying questions. Who was Father Christmas? Why did he bring presents? How did he deliver them all in one night? And how did it all start? I made up my mind that there was only one way to find out the truth. I had to meet Father Christmas face to face. Of course, I didn't tell anyone about my plan. My parents would have tried to stop me, and my twin sisters would have wanted to tag along, even though they were too young. This was a serious operation, and I couldn't risk it going wrong. Finally, Christmas Eve arrived, and my parents came up to kiss me goodnight. Do you know what day it is tomorrow? Asked my mother, her eye twinkling. Is it Wednesday? I asked, pretending not to care. She looked at my father, who shrugged. Yes, darling, she said, trying to maintain an air of suspense. It is Wednesday, but it's also Christmas Day. Oh, I said. I'm not really that interested in Christmas. Really, said my father. They both looked very disappointed, and for a very brief moment, I felt bad for tricking them. It's okay, I suppose, I said. If you like presents and chocolates and sweets and things like that. But I prefer to work through a few maths problems while listening to classical music. And then I faked a big yawn and closed my eyes. Whatever makes you happy, darling, said my mother, sounding worried. They kissed me goodnight, switched out the light, and went downstairs. I lay there in the dark, with my eyes closed, listening. I could hear my sisters in their bedroom down the hall, talking in their own special made-up language, which only they could understand. Usually when I heard them talking like that, it made me feel a bit left out. But not tonight, because I knew what I was doing, something very special. Eventually my sisters fell quiet, and the house was seemed very dark, deep and dark. I could hear the low murmur of my parents talking downstairs, but soon they stopped too, and the stairs creaked as they made their way up to bed. I knew they might look in on me, so I acted as if I was fast asleep. Good night, little man, my father whispered, as he gently moved my head back onto the pillow and pulled the covers up to keep me warm. Then I smelled my mother's perfume as she gave me a kiss. The door closed, and I heard their footsteps crossing the landing to their bedroom. I lay still, listening in the darkness. After what felt like the longest time, I decided it was safe enough to half open one eye. My bedside clock showed 11:45. I had never, ever been awake that late before, and I wondered for a moment if, when it struck midnight, I would be turned to stone, like a child in a fairy tale. I pulled back the covers, swung my feet down onto the rug, and tiptoed to the window. Outside, the window ledge was covered in snow. The moon was thin but bright, and in our neighbour's garden, a fox picked its way across the white lawn. Above me, the blue-black sky was scattered with stars and little wisps of cloud. Nothing moved, no shooting stars, no satellites, not even a trundling planet. And definitely no reindeer-drawn sleigh. I slunk back into bed, using both pillows together with one of the cushions from the chair. I made a sort of a bed throne, so that I could sit up and watch the open sky. Whatever happened, I wasn't going to sleep. I was going to wait until Father Christmas came. It was the birds, it was the bells I first heard. I expected, oh, we've also got a lovely picture here, sorry, we'll just stop right there. And so it's a fox, it's when we just talked about the fox picked its way across the white lawn. We see there the image has actually got a fox, we've got the child in a window looking out and waving at a fox there. We'll move on. Apologies if there's a cat in the background. So where were we? It was the bells I heard first. I'd expected jingle bells, like the ones in the song, but these sounded more like alpine cowbells. I ran to the window. The sky was empty just as before. Way off in the distance, I heard the bells stop and start, growing a little louder each time. Little by little, they grew closer, and my excitement mounted. Then finally, when they were at their loudest, there was a huge bang, followed by a loud grinding and sliding, and the whole ceiling shook. I'd always thought Father Christmas arrived quietly, but I couldn't have been more wrong. No wonder he has to wait until everyone is fast asleep. Quick as a flash, I pulled on my dressing gown, slid my feet into my slippers, snatched up my toy rabbit and ran downstairs. Boldly like, I burst through the sitting room door and rushed to the fireplace. Lumps of soot fell into the cold grate. Father Christmas was coming! Or at least he was trying to. The soot kept falling and up in the chimney there was the muffled sound of a struggle. Arg, I heard him say. You'd think one person could clean their chimney on Christmas Eve, but no. There was a shout, followed by a falling noise, followed by someone getting stuck in a chimney noise. There was a sound of wriggling and muttering, and a tiny figure fell into the fireplace. I'd always imagined Father Christmas to be giant, but the creature in front of me was minute. He had a bit of a tummy, though he wasn't what you'd call fat. He wore an old-fashioned red velvet jacket, embroidered with green, with matching red velvet trousers and dark brown leather boots. He also had pointy ears and a turned-up nose, with short, curly, white hair stuffed under a red velvet cap. Suddenly it struck me. Father Christmas wasn't a person at all. He was an elf. Oh, I shouted in shock. Ah, shouted Father Christmas, and jumped in fright, knocking over the fire iron, stumbling backwards and landing flat on his bottom in the fireplace. Ow, he said. My ankle. I think I've twisted it. I'm so sorry, I said, feeling very guilty. It's my fault for scaring you. Let me help you up. I took him by the arm and helped him to his feet. Ouch, he said. I can't put any weight on it, look. He tried to stand, but was obviously in quite a lot of pain. So I lifted him by his armpits and sat him in my father's armchair. Hello, he said, trying to compose himself as he took me in his bright blue eyes. I'm a chimney inspector from the council, and I've been told to inspect this chimney. I've had a look and it's fine, so I'm going now. Thank you very much for your help. A chimney inspector, I asked, pointing at a box of Lego that was poking out of his sack. Are you sure? He quickly pushed the Lego back inside the sack and looked at me defiantly. That, he said, that's my Lego. Lots of grown-ups do Lego. It's a thing. You can't fool me, I said. I know who you are. You do? Of course, I said, trying to keep my cool. I was, after all, in the presence of a global superstar. Everyone does. You're Father Christmas. Every year, children write a Christmas list with all the presents we'd like and send it to you at the North Pole. You have a workshop where your elves make the presents. Whoa, he said. There aren't my elves. They're my employees. And they come to the workshop because they want to. Aha, I said with a clasp of my hands. So you are Father Christmas. Ah, said the elf, looking like he'd been caught out. Shall I tell you what else I know about you? I asked. A feeling you might, he replied. Well, on Christmas Eve, you load all the presents onto your sleigh, and your 9 reindeer, Prancer, Dasher, Donner, Blitzer, Comet, Cupid, Dasher, Vixen, Dancer, plus Rudolph pull it through the sky. Go on, he said. At each house, you lay your sleigh on the roof, then climb down the chimney to leave the presents by the Christmas tree, exactly like you're doing right now. So you must be Father Christmas. It's possible, he said. It's very possible, in fact. He took a long pause, looked me in the eye. You're right. And then he smiled. It was like someone had turned on a sun lamp. His eyes twinkled with kindness, and I felt a wave of happiness lift like a toy boat in a bathtub. All my doubts were gone. Father Christmas was real, and here he was in my very own house. You must be Jackson, he said. Why are you up so late, when everyone else is sleeping? I was waiting for you, I said. I wanted to ask you a really important question. Can I? Shoot, said Father Christmas. Who are you, I asked. Who am I? Asked Father Christmas. How did all this start? How did you become Father Christmas? Father Christmas nodded slowly, as if my curiosity ever so slightly impressed him. Do you really want to know? He smiled. More than anything, I replied. Are you super triple sure? Asked Father Christmas. It might not be the story you're expecting. No good story is, I said. That's true, said Father Christmas. That's very true. He poked a finger into a pocket of his waistcoat, pulled out a silver pocket watch. Well, I'm slightly ahead of schedule, I suppose. Once again, he looked me right in the eye. I suppose as you've been very good, I could tell it to you very quickly. Yes, please, I said. Now, one thing you need to know about me is that I have a very extraordinary memory. I can remember the dates and times of every single meal I've ever eaten. Cheese sandwich, mustard instead of pickle, 12:30 p.m. 3 Wednesdays ago, being one such example. And my memory means that when someone tells me something, I can repeat every single word in exact order forever. So when I say that this was what Father Christmas told me, well, it's as good as him telling it to himself. Now that's the end of chapter 1. We can take a break now, and I'll be back to read you chapters 2 and 3. Thank you very much.